Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special episode of Redefining Journey Management. And what we are going to do today is not only help you to understand what journey management does for you, to go from mapping to management and set up a full governance way of working with your journeys at the heart of your operation. But what we noticed, Martin and I, who I'll introduce in a second, is that a lot of our customers love to get the basics right. And getting the basics right on journey management is not about your journey mapping skills, because most of you have that, but it's really understanding how to piece together your entire organization. So instead of having a special guest, I have a super special guest today by Martin. And we have been in the trenches of service design, of journey mapping, of changing the way a customer of ours or businesses of ours were customer-centric. So I'm going to set the stage a bit, and then we're going to dig in, and we're going to go deep into journey management. We're going to show a lot of data, how to do things, what the common problems are people struggle with, and how to overcome them, but mainly show you a way or multiple ways of doing things so that you can actually do this at speed. So we've been, like I said, in the trenches, and Martin, maybe you can take us back to that room we had at one of our customers where we were doing this mega trajectory, user research, journey mapping, bringing everyone together, validating opportunities, solutions, and basically trying to redefine what great looks like. And when we were standing in that big room, looking at the crowd, the board was there were some customers there, looking each other in the eye and knowing that as a high-end consultancy, we have failed big time. Can you take us back to that moment and tell a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I remember it as it was yesterday, actually. So we were looking each other in the eyes, and I, as a consultant to bring decision making in the forefront around the customer, realized that we have amazing energy in the room. Customers there, production team is there, designers are there, everyone is doing high five all over the place. But we knew that when everyone goes back to their desks, the customer leaves the space, we would just go back to normal mode again. And all these beautiful visuals on the wall, journey management sort of steps, we had taken them through the triple diamond, and we knew that the backlog will still be the same in 2 weeks from now. And we thought, like, there must be a better way. Right. And that was the starting stone towards data. And that was about 7-8 years ago.
Right. So we started thinking there must be a better way. Turned out there wasn't. So we decided to create one, but that was a little bit later. So as a consultancy, this was great for business. Like, we had a repeatable process. People loved it. We were hired for it. We went from team to team, from geography to geography, helping different business units do the same. So from a revenue perspective, that was great. But we felt like we're not solving the problem. Like you said, we're creating this problem.
There was also a key problem, was like, it was always confined to that space and time. So it was always on a project level. Everything was very clear to everyone. Everyone was aware of what was needed, for what type of focus was needed next, what priorities needed to happen, who needs to have a buy-in, what sponsor needs to be there to support this. But that was not enough.
Right. And then we thought the best time to start a product company, to do something risky, to remove all that like healthy revenue that we were generating, would be the moment that COVID hit. Right. So we started a product company back then, and it was a curse and a blessing. So what we are going to do today is take you through some of the learnings that we had along the way of building software to put the customer journey map in the heart of your operation, to introduce a way of working across journeys, across teams, that actually allows you to impact the customer experience together and to actually align faster and to make sure that everyone agrees, including your customers, right? That is what we are going to do.
And it's also showing you what, maybe redefine for you what a map actually is and what a map can actually do. So it's everything else but an old artifact that is hanging on a wall and collecting dust, right? It's a living document that you can work with, connect, combine, break apart, structure in any kind of context you like, depending on what you try to really make a decisions around. Tactical or strategic, doesn't matter. Customer, employee, doesn't matter, right? It's a format to very much, in a very easy way, align everyone about what is truly going on and what can we do about it.
The biggest insight actually that led us to figure out a way that is useful is not like this, that the map should be at the heart of your operation, but it's actually how to connect the dots, and combining design thinking and journey mapping and thinking about how organizations are working together led us to come up with what Data is today. So we're going to cover a few main topics, and we're going to cover them one by one. So we'll do an introduction in journey management, talk about the triple diamond, which you mentioned, like why triple diamond, why not double diamond, what it is, how it works, why we chose that as one of the backbones of our philosophy, and how to go from goals to solutions and integrate with other tools, standardize your way of working. We'll dig into goals, but we'll start to understand the journey framework, like how everything is pieced together. We go into opportunity discovery, and we talk about the nature of the customer journey, how to structure it, so you're set up for solution discovery, solution delivery, and doing all of that in one easy way. So we're going to chapter it a little bit. I'm going to ask a lot of questions. And before I do that, I just want to say one thing, like all our customers that are doing this have a few of their roadblocks, have a few barriers that they overcome. And software is software. You want to bring change to the organization. So Martin and his whole team are doing this, are coaching you, your executives, your team on how to do this where you are. We have a whole maturity roadmap, a model. That's not what we're going to go into today. This is really like going to the weeds of what's happening and what's not working. And we probably make a few other videos like this to tap into those little areas that I just mentioned. So are you ready, Martin? Shall we dig in?
Let's do it.
All right. So can we start with journey management? How would you define journey management? And why is the triple diamond, which is one of the frameworks you can think of, customer-centric ways of working, why is that important? Maybe we can start there. You can give a little intro and then we dig in.
Yeah, love to. So over the years, when we've been working with businesses, doesn't matter, what corner of the world, large or small, we're encountering this problem. When you try to bridge, the business goals, whatever they are, your KPIs or OKRs, with the needs of the customer, for instance, the jobs to be done that the customer needs to achieve, you have normally this issue. Because the business goals and the way you execute your business goals are normally vertical. You have them split up according to, say, marketing, sales, what have you, and the tooling these teams are using. The data that they are making decisions against are formatted in one way versus for instance, how marketing does it. And when you try to connect around the journey or the experience the customer has, because the customer doesn't really know what type of departments or silos they're actually engaging with throughout their experience with the company or the tool, the product, or the application process, whatever it might be. When the company is trying to connect and coordinate around this, how to solve, pains, deliver on needs, or even benefit from delivering a great experience from a, say, cost efficiency perspective, you get a mess. Data is scattered, decisions are not connected, people are not aware of what one team is doing or what the other one is trying to do. You have double work, formats are all over the place, as I mentioned, so you have a very, very big issue of collaboration. Another view of this issue is that many different teams are looking from their perspective at the problem that they are trying to solve, and that is totally normal. But what you have your own budget, you have your own backlog, your own career path, whatever it might be that drives you, and then you look at the world from your horizon, from your perspective, and you try to fix what is the most important for your team to deliver. Now, as you see, experience though becomes that way very fragmented, and you maybe focus on something that is really important to you and your team, but you're not aware of that it maybe also is connected to many other type of decisions, flows, pains, needs, etc., that the customer, employee, or whoever has. So if you coordinate this in a journey format, because again, customers have an horizontal experience across many different touch points across their time or relationship with the company, you get a different picture. You get the picture of what the customer truly experiences things as, and then you can bring that back to the teams that still are maybe working, as marketing, sales, IT, what have you. But once they are coordinated around what truly matters, they can also start to collaborate, still, set up in the way they are set up, but whatever they are actually building and deploying is aligned through the journey. And this journey can be anything. It can be the whole customer life cycle down to a very, very specific sort of more micro experience that is very, very key from the customer perspective to improve. Does that make sense, Jochem?
Yeah, it does. And this was one of the reasons why doing this as a consultancy was very valuable, because we went from team to team, right? From single silo department with their own P&L, with their own ideas, with their own management style. We went in and helped them, but didn't really help the rest of the organization. So it was meant to not scale, to have a single successful project that at best got adopted, but 99% of the cases wasn't able to integrate.
Yeah, but there's one thing we have noticed working with many different customers worldwide, is that up till now, when you map journeys, you might, or very often, you reveal what is truly important, and you have great insight about what matters from the customer perspective. But how do you tie that back to business? That is one key, element that we needed to solve with journey management. And the other one is also like, how can we avoid that the decisions or sort of insights, opportunities that you actually discover just don't end up being a PowerPoint presentation, but actually become more, hands-on projects that a delivery team can truly focus on. And that is something we have incorporated into our product as well. And that is why we say mapping is just a starting point for a successful way of working with journey management.
Just one thing that is important to highlight here is that no matter where you go in any business, product has their roadmap, they have their opportunity solution trees, they have their artifacts, right? Marketing has their campaign roadmap, they have their performance dashboards, maybe they have some touch point orchestration tooling. Everyone has a version of reality in place, but the customer journey, mapping it out, understanding what a customer goes through step by step, and then understanding how the pieces fit together, no one disagrees with that. And that is really cool, because marketing, product, service, operations, CS, CX, everyone will say, yeah, if we can agree on what the customer journey is, we can start working together. And that is why customer journeys, in essence, having quality customer journeys, is the starting point, but not the end. If you agree on this is what the customer journey looks like, you don't do anything. You want to start using that to manage change and align priorities. And I think that is one of the bigger insights that we had, is that mapping, you almost don't care about mapping. You need to have high quality journey maps, but the map is not the result. It's just an output to get to your result. And I think that is an important distinction to make. Rather than dwell on make that journey map perfect, use it to navigate change.
For sure. I mean, what I normally say is the journey is just a format of actually visualizing, validated data, right? So journeys are made out of arguments, insights, metrics, whatever it might be, that is sort of describing a specific event or a flow or a context. And why it's so important to have it in the journey format is because everyone has, or it's way more easier to understand what are we trying to actually solve here, and what kind of data do we have available to make the right decision. Because what we noticed over time is if you have data, first and foremost, remember, scattered all over the place in many different formats, And even data is hard to understand because you maybe need to be a business intelligence person to or have the competence to really understand and decipher some big data. You don't see the bigger picture, whatever the small or large scope is that you're trying to solve. But once you have it in a journey format, that data and that overview is way more easier to unpack and then start to work with, and also share with others because it's contextual.
So back to journey management.
Yes.
Journey mapping, which we all know. We're not going to go into that. But let's make a step to journey management and tracking impact back to your goals before we go into the weeds.
Yeah. So data is based on a few repositories that is really very well anchored from service design and another more or few others. And it actually goes back to the model of triple diamond. We will get to that in a second. But first and foremost, what we're doing is we're connecting the dots. So normally what you can begin with is what type of business goals or business goal do we actually have right now that we need to solve as a company or as a team or as a department? That gives you the context of what you're trying to improve and what type of data you need to have available for validation purposes. That then you can structure that data, you can structure in the journey format that is sort of telling you the bigger picture and also all the levels of details around the problem you're trying to solve from the customer perspective, but also to understand how you're performing as a business in the eyes of the customer. And because we also have metrics involved in these journeys, you can also see how you're performing as a business in that context. Now, that context tells you something. Where are you performing well and where you're not performing well? Those areas where you have, validated pains or bottlenecks, whatever it might be, you can then translate into opportunities. And an opportunity is not a solution yet. It's rather telling you that considering we have a business goal, there is a pain that we have discovered across this journey. So how might we unburden or remove that pain so that the end customer or we as a business can achieve what we want to achieve? But what we have here is the business goal translated into the real context of why this pain actually exists in the first place. Because we have both quant and qual data that is actually telling us not only what happened, when it happened, where it happened, but also why it happened. Because empathy studies and customer surveys, etc., in a journey format actually tells you why that problem occurred in the first place and what you can do about it.
But what you're saying actually is that, of course, we have business goals, right? Reduce churn, get more revenue, or increase our efficiency, and then break it down into more tangible goals. Every quarter we work. But what you are saying is that the customer journey, the mapping of the customer journey is giving us a view of the context. That's one. So then we understand what they go through and we know the business goals so that we can layer that on top of each other. But what you're actually showing here is that from these journeys, you want to take the opportunities, and that is the level that you can start talking how we're going to address these business goals. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Got it.
Thank you. And these opportunities are horizontal actually. So they are actually looking across X amount of journeys or X amount of different touch points that are contributing to the pain or gap that you try to achieve with or solve with your business goal, right? So you're looking at a flow rather than a very small little snapshot. So it can be something that spans across, say, the onboarding process all over to say how the IT deliverables are maybe not optimal from a say UI perspective or UX perspective on the websites. So it's not only a problem that the onboarding team should solve, but also can be connected to many different other verticals that can contribute to solving that opportunity and also therefore the pain. And that is where solutions come in. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, before we go into solutions, this was one of the bigger insights that led to make journey management even possible, because most teams, even if they wanted to work outside in and cross-functional, have one journey map, one overview of the whole customer journey and therefore their experience. But what we realized, there's many journeys that form an experience, maps that form an experience, and they have many different data points. They have many different insights that you collect in them. So giving that context plus the insight and the data reveals an opportunity, but you want to connect the dots across these journeys. So that is what like the first innovation we brought. Like, let's use opportunities to connect many different journeys together so you can like size the opportunity properly.
Yeah,
I think that's
for sure.
a good distinction to make. And that's what the first step that makes this possible.
And that is something I think Dado does really well, which is fairly unique, is that you can, pull exactly what you just described in from any amount of different journeys, high level down to very detailed level, and you connect all of those through the opportunities. And that is something we can do dynamically because everything is linked and connected. So if you work, for instance, in a Miro environment, yet alone on a sort of brown paper roll, that is almost impossible, and track everything and see how everything is related to each other and what journey is leading to different decision paths from a high level down to very detailed level perspective. But with journeys in Dado orchestrated in this kind of way and connected through opportunities, you know truly that you're taking all kind of data points into context for the business goal that you're trying to solve.
Well, maybe this is a good segue to triple diamond framework.
Yeah.
And why not the double diamond? Like many service designers listening to this are like, yeah, I know double diamond, but triple diamond, you hate it or you love it. Little disclaimer here is that we're not married to it, but it's a very useful lens to look at all the different things that are going on in managing the customer experience. But I'll let you take it from here. But I think that will be a good segue into why our logo is the triple diamond, but also why we believe this is the simplest way to basically connect the dots across your journey management.
And why our tool repositories look the way they do as well, right? So again, it is actually a slightly different version of this one, but more about the flow. So the energy of how you're moving across these different steps, right? And let's start at all the way to the left. So you have the business goal objective that you're trying to solve. You can be a team, can be a company, it doesn't matter of size. Now what you do is, once you understand the sort of the brief or the context of your problem, you then start to collect different type of insights. So arguments for what is actually going on, data points, etc. So it can be metrics, like for instance an NPS score. It can be what is the customer actually saying through transcripts, interviews, surveys, whatever it is. And there's a reason for why you have this diamond shape, so like expanding and converging shape. So what you do in the beginning of the first diamond is that you're discovering what actually is going on. What is your problem? So you're expanding all the way and trying to understand the context of all the type of inputs that you have around this specific topic. And you map those in different type of journeys. Can be very, very large, big picture, end-to-end journeys down to very detailed level journeys about specific steps and processes.
We're going to go into journey framework and how everything is linked. But again, underlining why journeys is that if you have a specific goal and you're only going to figure out insights, and you're going to make a map of your insights, and you're going to like figure out the job to be done, it's valuable, but you still lack the context. So for that one single project, that might be the way to go, but you want to contextualize everything in where the customer is and how it works. So problem discovery in using journeys is an easier way to bring people along later on. But we're going to get to that. I'll let you continue, Martin. I just wanted to highlight that a little bit.
Now, it's a good point, Jochem, because what it also can give you is to know what you know and what you don't know, right? So it can also create an inventory of what type of data do we have available around this specific problem, because you can also in Dado structure journeys based on to what extent are these journeys validated, assumptions, or even maybe still black holes that we don't know anything about. So it can give you a good idea about what actually we know about this problem once we actually go into decision mode. And then we have converging shape of the first diamond. So once you have mapped your sort of all your data points available, you can start to narrow in on what truly is the pains and the needs and gains around the specific goal that you're trying to solve across any amount of journeys. Because the journeys tell you in a very graphical ways, like where are these pain points? And they are then defined as opportunities. And opportunities, again, considering this pain, how might we unburden our customers so that they can achieve what they need to achieve? So it's actually a written version of your goal, but from a customer-centric perspective. Now, sorry, go on.
Funny anecdote here. Like in traditional design thinking, you would call this the problem statement, right? You have the business challenge, which is like, hey, this is what we want to do as a business, or here's where we think we should figure out something better. And then you go through problem discovery, and you understand what the customer does, and you define a problem statement. Usually that come up to the final problem statement. How might we ... are considering the business challenge? So there's different ways of formatting things. So we call this the problem statement. And then our initial customers are like, why so negative? What is this? And we want to be a happy company, right? We want to be positive and giving forward momentum. So we said, okay, you're right. And also in product management, like we talk about opportunities. So little story there, but that is why we landed on the word opportunities.
Exactly. Injecting it with positive vibes is always a win, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have we might have now a lot of opportunities. Say we have 20 opportunities, large and small, that are addressing this goal partially or entirely. Okay, how do we know which one we should go for? Because we are a company with limited resources. We maybe don't have a lot of time available, etc. So we need to focus on which one to really truly focus on next. So in Data, you can prioritize. So you can really quickly assess which ones should we go for. And we'll show you more in detail in a sec how that looks like. But you can think of like, we have validated which pain points are important, but which are worth solving is based on how much value they actually unlock those opportunities, both for you as a business, i.e. directly impact your business goal, but also how much value they give or deliver to the end user, whoever that is. You can think of, for instance, volume and frequency. So how many customers will experience this improvement, and how frequently are these improvements seen or used? That helps you to sort of validate which opportunities to go for. We're still in horizontal mode here, so we're actually looking across the different journeys and the different touch points. And what we then do is that we start to assess which teams are best suited to solve or help us solving these opportunities. And then we go back to these teams and say, hey, look, we have these validated opportunities that is going to solve this business goal. Help us to do this as best as you can.
How does it work in practice? Because this is like, if you're doing this for the first time, there's a small, tiny team, usually cross-functional team, that starts to do this work.
Yep.
But we also have customers that have hundreds of journeys and hundreds of people managing their journeys. So how does it evolve over time?
Well, what normally happens is that, maybe now we, fast forwarding a little bit, but it's not one role that uses Data. Actually, you have many different type of roles that are contributing with their, ownership and responsibilities across the organization to collaborate around what they already do, but you do it in a coordinated way. So if you, for instance, say you have 10 different teams, what you then have is the product manager or even the product owner and so forth. They literally look at, okay, what is relevant from my perspective? What opportunities have been prioritized that I am, indirectly or directly responsible of? And then they can go into Data and say, okay, these ones are the ones that we're going to go for. And I, as a representative of my team or teams, can then come with the best possible solution to those prioritized opportunities. And again, the prioritized opportunities can be, defined by business owners, product managers, researchers, and so forth, right? So you have actually a very nice dance between different roles, and everyone is actually slotting in already what they do, but they do it in a collaborative kind of way. Would you have
that is a key thing. Like, design thinking was created for a project. It's a useful way to do a project. But what you're saying actually is that we're taking a stab at making this a system, a service design system, a design thinking system, so that you can actually do this across different projects, different time intervals. Doesn't matter if something is in the early stages or later stages of discovery, but by codifying it in a consistent way, you can continuously start to prioritize these opportunities and figure out who's working on what. That's basically what you're saying.
Exactly. And it's your choice as the user customer to Data to find your entry point, your ability, And then together with us, we can discover what can you do next to scale, not only, decisions being based on journeys, but literally working in this fashion. And we, with our experience, have a lot of, been in the trenches, as you said, back in the days. We know what you encounter, what pains you encounter, and how you can sort of hopefully resolve them in the best possible way, both tactically and strategically.
Nice.
But back to the diamond again. So what you have here is the solution discovery. So you have now, say, 3 different teams, for the sake of example, 3 different teams. Maybe one is an IT team, another one is a content team, and the third one is maybe the sales team, for instance, or support team. How can they collaborate with their best capacity to solve the opportunity? So what they do is that they come up with shitty ideas. We call them shitty for a reason, because what you want to do is that any idea, it's very easy to come up with ideas, but which ideas do truly stick and deliver on that value that you're looking for? You can validate those ideas very, very quickly. So therefore you have an expanding and a converging shape again. And we track this also in data, because all solution or ideas can be also have different type of status that you go through to all the way to say, okay, these ideas are really, really great. We're going to go to production with these. So it's actually a matter of filtering away everything that will not work before you actually start producing it. So maybe from a backlog of great, you thought 20 ideas, you maybe end up with 3, right? And you deliver them as your end-to-end team, or sort of, as I said, IT team, support team, and content team. And you do it in the way you normally always do it. But once they are deployed, you connect them back to the opportunity that is solving a horizontal issue that is then solving the business goal that you have identified.
In large organizations, the corporate learning, dare I use this word, usually gets lost. Like, people just only focus on the thing that they actually ship, and they measure that. But maybe you're running a few experiments. You're actually building a little version of what you intend to build, and you put it live, and people start to interact with it and they like it, or you change your service, or you try a new different type of campaign. Like, all of these little solutions that are maybe half-baked, if they don't work, tracking that against those opportunities back to your journeys will give you a super resource that over time your teams can use to know, like, oh, we tried that before. Oh, in that context, maybe we try it again in a different context, or no, that's never going to work. And that knowledge in most companies is not visible, is not present, is not accessible anywhere.
It's lost. It's there's so many different teams doing the same thing over and over again because they didn't know what failed previously. So they do it again because they thought they're the first ones coming up with the solution, right? But in data, you can track that. We don't only track the backlog of stuff that is actually being built, but we also track stuff that was rejected. And we do that for a reason.
Right.
All right, I talked about backlog. So we have, of course, a few integrations in data where you can actually, once you know which solution you're going to actually deliver and what team is going to deliver it, you can then push those, for instance, to Azure DevOps or Jira to actually have that system track the progress of the deployments, the triple diamond. And that is then directly reflected in data as well. So we can actually see the status of all the different solutions. And that can be then sort of rolled up to, okay, what is the status of the opportunity? And what is the status, therefore, of course, of the delivering that one goal that we now are setting out to deliver, that you can then report back to your stakeholders about where are we with it, who is doing what stage are we in, and so forth. Or maybe even very variable. It's like we maybe don't have the resources available, so it's stuck in a third diamond. And what shall we do about it? Because it's an impediment to not deliver on time. So that is information that we can track and make very, very visible. But say you're now introducing the solution, it's delivered. What we then can do very quickly is, because we have live metrics in a journey format available, for instance, like NPS through Qualtrics, we can directly see the impact of that solution in the context of the journey that we are have now mapped, where we identify the pain, go back and say, hey, yes, we moved that needle to such an extent that we actually set out to do. And then that ties back directly to the business goals that we have identified. And there we have the closed loop of not only ideating and coming up with great sort of concepts, but actually measuring impact all the way back to the business goal and the customer value that we are setting out to improve in the first place.
And this part I really like is that because this used to be on a project level, but if you put the journey at the center and start to organize yourself around this, you get a different lens and you can actually do this continuously, impacting that customer experience. I think that is the key here, summarizing the triple diamond workflow, the triple diamond framework, using that as a lens for innovation. What I love is that some of our customers have said, like, there can't be an epic on any roadmap that isn't linked to a journey. Basically meaning like the teams have gone through this process and getting to the right approach, or at least a validated approach that they want to ship. Now, a little disclaimer here for people who are listening, like, yeah, but we have like endless backlogs and roadmaps and ideas, and the next time we can implement something is 12 months down the road. It should also work the other way around, right? Once you have clarity on the opportunity and the direction of the solution, you can also navigate this internally and talk about, like, what did we actually want to build? And is it still relevant? Does it change the order of things? What should we link back to our journeys? What is not relevant anymore? So there's a lot of reprioritization happening. And the more people that realize that to deliver on your customer-centric goals, reprioritization of our roadmap, of our backlog, is actually necessary, because it was very business-focused, siloed, inside out. And we should, like, learn how to do it outside in. And I think putting this in place in an organization, but also giving them an objective lens, which are the journeys connecting to the data and the insights to base those opportunities on, give them superpowers. And doesn't have to be that everything from here goes to your roadmap. It can be like, let's reprioritize the roadmap based on what we have learned.
There are even some customers that are hacking the system a little bit, and because we have these integrations, they're actually pulling in their backlog from wherever, Jira, say Azure, and then they have the solutions in Dado that reflect the backlog, and then they actually look at, hang on, which of these solutions are actually addressing an opportunity, or are we just doing this for the sake of internal processes or egos or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
And they sort of start to literally kill off their projects that are, from a validation perspective at least, maybe not worthwhile pursuing.
Right. So let me summarize this, and then let's go into it, because we've been talking about the theory behind Dado now, which is very valuable, and I really appreciate that. But what we actually said is, like, to get to a journey management workflow, to get to an objective reality, and to make sure that people can align and are happy to align and actually make an impact on the customer experience, you need to bring in all your insights and your data in one place, using journeys, customer journeys, to visualize that is a useful lens. But once you have that in place, you want to give your teams an approach to go from insight to implementation and start working using a set of building blocks. And that is what we unlock by turning insights, opportunities, solutions, and metrics into the building blocks of your journey management system. And I think it all starts with having a proper structure that everyone can work against. So if that is the right summary, we should move into the next stage of things. Where do you want to start, Martin? You want to start at the top with the journey framework, or you want to start at the bottom from a journey map, building this up?
Why not let's start from the top, from the journey framework, or why not even from a goal perspective, or mix them up? It's not always linear. You go back and forth a little bit. But going back to just between these two. So as I mentioned before, you have goals, insights, opportunities, solutions, and metrics. And in Dado, these are also the repositories we're working with. So you have these are just the goals, you have journeys, insights, opportunities, and solutions, and of course, persona. We can touch base on those for a sec as well a little bit later. So what you have in at your disposal, which might be a little bit overwhelming in the first place when you encounter this view, is that, hang on, but where's my... Well, in Dado, what we do is that we rather work with journeys rather than a journey. Because
can you say that again? I'm marking this right now.
Yeah. that in Dado, we're working not with a journey, but rather journeys. So we have many different journeys giving you what you normally would be used to see in maybe one end-to-end journey. So your framework view is rather an interactive end-to-end journey of a specific context that you can then start to really go very, very big picture overview of what is actually going on and why. Or you can start to filter and narrow down on a specific aspect that is important to you at a given moment in time. But you use this view to navigate that.
So what you're actually saying is that where people might be coming from is like have this massive like end-to-end customer journey map.
Yep.
That's not the right way to think about it. No customer goes through that in one go. I mean, think about insurance companies, right? You start getting insured at 18, and maybe your life insurance when you in your life ends. That's not one journey. That's many journeys of moving, of acquiring, of starting up new parts of it. So what you're saying is the journey framework is actually splitting those up into smaller parts you can actually manage.
Exactly. And why is that then? Well, think about it this way. If you would have an end-to-end journey that tries to really capture everything, how would that journey look like if you would go for, say, for instance, like if we now take the insurance company example, where you say, I'm looking for a suitable life insurance, and you map that in the same journey down to, for instance, like, how am I contacting customer support in a specific type of context when I'm not aware of how maybe a feature on the website looks like, or how I'm logging into my area on the sort of, my personal account, so to say. Everything in that one journey would be very, very cumbersome to work with and find what's really relevant in different type of context. Yet alone to bring that back to maybe to C-level, etc. That is more or less impossible. So what we do in Dado is like we have a framework with all this data available on this highest altitude of flights, but using filters, for instance, here, you can very quickly start to navigate like across this. What is important to me right now, depending on what business goal I am trying to achieve or solve, right? So maybe what I want to look at is, I want to look at something that is related to marketing because I'm representing the marketing team here. And I want to look at, for instance, something related to when people are discovering our product or service. So we are maybe looking in the context of awareness here. That is only at this time in this demo example, just one journey. But of course, there might be many, many different journeys that are now marketing related in the context of awareness. But because of the filters, we can really navigate what is relevant to me from my vertical perspective in the context of all the different journeys available. Does that make sense, Jochem?
Yes, but is it the end state, like our version of the end state? Like, how do people get here? Like, is it like poof and there it is, or do we have ways of helping them to do so?
Oh, for sure.
Think about that in general.
We do. So what you have is, you can start with working of setting up a journey framework. So literally think about it, the scope, right? What are we trying to map? And you have different type of templates that you can use. You can like customer lifecycle for service, product marketing, or maybe even employee journey, right? And just for the sake of example, we can just select one here and we can just create a sort of a customer lifecycle that is then generated by Dado. And of course, there are many more templates coming that we will be having available for you to use. But with a few clicks, we're setting the stage for you that you can start to populate, right? And I'll increase my screen a little bit here. And this is going across many different sort of chapters that you can then customize to your needs and likings. So for instance, I'm not a customer, I become a customer, I am a customer, etc., etc. So those are different chapters across your scope. So that is very easy to set up and break down into maybe many different boards or chapters or fewer. It's your choice. And that is something you do together with us, the enablement team, to orchestrate and help you so it mirrors your structure and way of working.
Are there many versions of this, or is it like, don't think too much? Because what I've seen is that you want to break down your customer experience in a useful way that everyone can understand. So there are some common patterns. Can you speak about that? Like, what have you seen? What have you observed? What are the things people like? Are there that many differences? Like, what have you seen?
Funny enough, not that many, to be honest, because one thing that normally is a common denominator for a framework is that your horizontal axis is always almost time related. So it shows something like, jobs to be done. So before, during, and after of whatever the context is, right? Again, it can be a whole customer life cycles. It can be the whole lifespan of the customer, but it can be the onboarding experience, or it can be, I want to get my car serviced, or I am going on a trip to Abu Dhabi and back, right? But it normally always spans across some type of horizon of events across time. And then depending on how narrow or broad you want to go, you then have X amount of boards that you set up. And that normally also depends on a little bit of your maturity, because sometimes some customers just begin with a few journeys. So maybe this view here is very sort of hard to work with, because no one wants to have an empty framework. And then rather you can start to organize and structure your journeys on a lower sort of so to say fragmented kind of way. So you can maybe just use one board rather to give you your end-to-end experience. And then once that board becomes too crowded, you can start to split it up into a framework level.
Can you show it? Wait again.
Yeah, sure. So I have here is, for instance, an example of a customer experience board. So here maybe we only work with two different journeys about awareness and purchase. From a, in this case, it was a train 1 or train 2 experience. It was an old presentation we had, but maybe I only work with two different journeys to begin with. And I want to compare these two journeys. We're not even in the journeys yet, but we can already see the data in these journeys and how they are relating to each other. And these sort of lanes can also, give you an idea about different alternatives to comparing data. It can be maybe market A versus market B. It can be product A versus product B. Some customers, this is debatable, like to maybe do current versus future. We maybe don't need to go into the details about if that is good or not, but that is also possible, of course. You can maybe have, different type of scenarios around, customers that need maybe some type of support versus other support. So like, I really need personal help versus I know my way around, so I can navigate your product or offering independently. You can have online versus offline, etc., etc. So, the opportunities are endless, and that is something we help you to set up in a best possible way together.
If you look at this one, right?
Yeah.
One goes from awareness to purchase. So there's a bunch of stages in between, like consider, make a short list or whatever. So, oh yeah, exactly. That's what I was getting at. Like, this should be something that people can easily manipulate. So that's how we designed it. But what I see you do now is you add a stage, but how do you think about the journeys? And maybe what we can do is summarize in a few of the questions you want to ask yourself that I know you ask of our customers, how to think about the framework. So you touch based on the level. So the framework level is one flight level higher. And this is a single board of journeys, and the framework is multiple boards of journeys, looking at that altitude. But now we're in, yes, exactly. Now this is a framework, but now if we go just to the board to organize your customer journeys, your customer journey maps, how do you think about asking the right questions to get to exactly like this level of granularity? Like, can you give a few examples for folks listening?
So, yeah, thank you for that. We might need a whole hour to answer those. But normally, so just when you were talking, I highlighted a few things. So for sake of example, we have actually coded this with level 0, level 1, and then you can think of that your journey, the first sort of highest level of journey is a level 2 journey, right? So again, the highest sort of perspective of horizon, altitude of flight, looking at your context, you could think of being level 0 being the framework. And again, this is maybe a little bit hard to understand, but the framework is just sort of a lens or a prism through which you use to look at your journey repository, right? So in Dado, this is our journey repository in Dado. You have a lot of different journeys here, but they are just here lying around in the database. They're not structured or of course you can filter on different things, but you don't have a context here. You have many different journeys. So your framework is actually a way of structuring and coordinating your journeys so it actually makes sense in a specific context. And this is where it's really cool. You can reuse one journey across any amount of different frameworks, boards, etc. You can have one journey reoccur many times in the same framework as well.
Can you give an example of when that happens?
Yeah, of course. So for instance, like if you have, say you're a bank and you have this known KYC, so known your customer process, right? So you need to identify who am I and so forth. That might happen many times over if I am, for instance, someone who looks for a mortgage, or I want to make an investment, or want to set up a pension plan and so forth. The same process of me fulfilling the KYC needs to be repeated over and over again. Why do I need to have 3 different journeys for it if the process is identical? So I can use that KYC journey across different type of need states in my framework, or many frameworks, depending on how you like to structure it. And if I then identify pain of that one KYC experience, mapped it that one journey, I can modify that one journey once we have actually fixed it, and that replicates across all the locations where that one journey has been used instantly.
Right. And the experience from that particular KYC journey is then influencing the lens of the mortgage framework of the customer experience, or the lens of creating a bank account, if that's a framework you set up with the journeys, including that KYC journey. The KYC journey influences the overall experience of getting a bank account set up.
Exactly. Or maybe you have a B2B versus a B2C framework, for instance, but the KYC process is still the same.
Right.
All right. Look, so this is now the highest altitude. So just go very quickly. So as I showed you before, you have the filter options here, right? So you can say, okay, what type of information is relevant to me? I can say, look, I want to look at journeys depending on who is the owner, different journeys with different status. For instance, like I want to look at only, validated journeys versus, research journeys, etc. I could, like, for instance, and these are also dynamic. So these filters are related to the taxonomy you have for journeys in this case. And this is something we're also setting up for you, so that mirrors your way of working, your terminologies, and so forth. But you can look at everything that has maybe to do with support, finance, etc. I could look at different level of journeys as well, like the macro journey versus micro journey, or just maybe service blueprints. And here's also really cool. I can also filter, journeys based on what persona is interesting to me, and filter all the other personas out of the context. That's really cool.
What do you mean with that? So I have a lot of insights in my journeys from specific personas, but now looking at them collectively.
So if I don't have any filters on for persona, I'm looking at all my personas. I'm looking at all the journeys covering all the personas we have been mapping, right? So say we are, in this case example, we have 4 different personas across all our journeys here.
That's a nice simple setup.
Sorry?
That's a nice simple setup. I know many companies.
Exactly, very nice. Yeah, and very simple. we have customers with many more. But say, okay, so now we look at, as you see here, the average arc of the empathy or the data that is sort of brought up through all these different journeys in a summary here are across all these different personas. But if I want to say I want to only look at, maybe it's a bad example, but I only want to look at Matteo here, I can filter out the other ones, and therefore the data is only taking the Matteo in, all the journeys that only Matteo has been represented into context. So this is very, very powerful to really navigate this way as well. I could also, search on tags. We can, for instance, say that some journeys are only relevant to a specific market, right? So we can say, for instance, like we have tagged all journeys that are only related to the US market versus UK market. I don't know really how that looks like, but say, for instance, that would be then across all markets equivalent. And therefore, we can get very quickly regional views rather than global views or data summary. And that is really powerful. So that is why it's so cool to have the framework working as your master journey rather than going to that one journey that you normally may be used to and work with that, because that becomes very, very sort of I would say, old-fashioned and very analog, versus having everything tagged and linked in this way is extremely powerful.
So what you're saying, and basically if I can summarize, journeys are your building blocks. That's where the magic happens. And we didn't even look at them yet. We will. That's where the magic happens. And you structure them against a time horizon from left to right, sequence of events. That is like what we call a framework, and or board, what we call it in Dado, but basically taking into account from left to right the customer's perspective. But you use those building blocks of those journeys to aggregate what the experience is like, so that you can start answering questions like what the experience is for one persona or where the opportunities are for another. And that is what the framework does.
Exactly.
Right.
And now is a really cool thing here, because there are actually three alternatives up here in the under the header of the customer experience. Because across these different journeys, so in this case we have 5 covering awareness, 5 covering purchase, etc., we have identified opportunities for improvement. Remember this one again? So in the context, and this is the context of the whole customer lifecycle, where do we have opportunities for improvement, right? So we can very quickly navigate within the customer experience scope, look at all the opportunities right now across all these different journeys. So
before we go into here, Martin, can you just, for the sake of overview,
yep,
show me one journey?
Yep.
Just go to a journey in the framework where, because this is a journey map, right? This is what everyone knows. Just show me some of those opportunities, and then we can go back up. So just so you have context.
That's a good one. Thanks for that. So everyone is fairly familiar with journeys, so I just collapse this for the sake of focus. So what we have in Dado is like we can set up a journey to look any way you like. So this is like you can rearrange these lanes very, very easily, and they have, all these different lanes have different sort of purposes, right? So we can choose from many different lane types that you see here. What it comes down to simply is to orchestrate your insights and metrics to answer the context of an experience. In this case, I choose a mobile subscription is the journey scope, right? So here we have different customer insights that are then built up from different insights that the customer has told us about what they are experiencing in the relationship, for instance, from triggering to start looking around, or I have some questions, I'm comparing mobile alternatives, etc., etc. And what you have here is information that you maybe extract from interview or a form that you maybe have, or any type of data source. And you build your journeys with these insights. And it's very easy to tag. You see the different colors, and these colors sort of represent, for instance, gains being green, pains being red, and different sort of customer activities that they are actually doing in the context of that step. That gives you a good story around what is actually going on. What you also have in Dado is the ability to also link different metrics, i.e., how are you performing as a business in the context of, in this case, the whole journey. So you can fund purchase NPS is based on something we are pulling in from a database that you can then link, and you have the NPS score. This is just example metrics, but that you can really see being updated live based on what feed we get from, for instance, the NPS research. And this can be, for instance, weekly, monthly, daily, whatever it is, right? So this data is live. If you don't have access to live metrics, you can, of course, create a new metric card, and you can select that being manual metric that you can input yourself to just keep track on how you're doing. All right. Based on all this information that you now have discovered, we just move the solutions down here so we can focus on, what actually is going on. We have now identified for these different 2 personas, because they are the ones represented in this journey. So we have Theo and Matteo, how we are actually performing according to them, right? So what we see here is that the compare alternatives is actually fairly painful experience. So we can look at it rather more from an aggregated perspective. So this is in red territory here, according to the data collected. So this is now an area for improvement that we maybe can address, right? So how can we help Matteo and Theo to compare alternatives of mobile subscriptions in an easier kind of way. So what we do here is that we create an opportunity, right? So here is the opportunity lane. And we can do two things. We can actually start writing here based on what we think. Again, remember, how might we? So considering that Matteo and Theo have difficulties comparing alternatives, how might we help them so that they can come to conclusion which one to go for in a much easier way, right? And preferably choose us as the business. We can choose it from templates that maybe are available, or we can start from scratch, or we can actually go to our opportunity repository and actually choose an existing opportunity that has been identified elsewhere, or maybe even by someone else that is collaborating around this specific topic, and link it to this specific step.
And that is, I think, coming back to your original train of thought that we saw earlier, the other part of the video, where we said, okay, you link opportunities together, because in the phone journey of buying a new mobile subscription, there might be struggles with comparing alternatives, but there might be an opportunity related to it happening in another journey.
Yep.
So you connect the dots, right?
Exactly. So here we have an example opportunity already made. So it follows the same sort of system of structuring everything the way we just described with solutions, with the taxonomy. So here you can also add different properties, like what type of opportunity is it, who is the owner, what status does it have, etc., right? We can also see what other journeys this opportunity is linked to. We can even look down to the step level. So, and we can go directly to that journey to really see, okay, why is this opportunity linked there? And we can read about it as well. That is possible. But what is really key here, remember what we discussed back to this view here, is that we can prioritize which opportunity to choose from based on what value it unlocks, right? And that is what you do here. If you go to the detail page, you can actually see here is that we can maybe zoom in a little bit. We can actually say what customer value or what business value would be unlocked, would this opportunity be implemented? And that is currently 2 sliders that you can very easily drag like this, and then this becomes then your priority score that you can then compare.
Like I'm looking at a journey right now. Why would it matter on a journey level?
How it matters on a journey level is this. So what you have here is that you can look at the opportunities that you have identified across this journey. So before we were looking at the whole framework, but now we have the opportunities listed only on this journey. And I want to now maybe know which opportunity related to I choose a mobile subscription is the most important to maybe focus on. And I can actually compare these different opportunities with each other based on the value score we have now identified. So I'm looking now as a researcher and say, okay, hang on a minute, this is interesting. So according to because the ones that are the most sort of valuable from a unlocking business and customer value perspective are in the upper right corner. And then you also ask, but hang on, this circle size is different. Why is that? Well, it actually depends on how many different journeys and journey steps this solution actually addresses or derives from. So it's not only this journey, actually, it also gives you a little bit more information about to what extent does this opportunity have a reach. And I can now make a decision that maybe these, 5 opportunities here are the ones worthwhile focusing on, right?
Well, that is on a journey level.
That's on the journey level. Yeah.
So now let's go back to why it matters on the framework level. I think that is the most important one.
Exactly. So we go back to the whole customer experience perspective, and we have now the same alternative here. So we can switch to the opportunity tree for the whole framework, right? And we can now look at the matrix across all the different journeys that are allocated in the matrix, or sorry, in the framework. And now we can start to make a decision as well. Or we can narrow down further, because we can also start to apply filters and say, hey, look, I want to only look at opportunities that have anything to do with sales, for instance. Or I want to have anything to do with sales that are actually right now, say, validated. So say it's not in concept phase, but it's currently planned and currently maybe in progress, right? So everything else is filtered away.
Nice.
So you have the ability to really, really, bring information to your sort of judgment or your matrix based on what is relevant to me at this moment in time.
So what you are saying is everything rolls up from the journey to however you have structured your framework using the journeys as your building blocks. You can ask the question, which of these opportunities in that context are actually relevant?
Exactly.
Right.
And this is an alternative view, which is even more cool, I think. It's my favorite one here, is that we can also, every opportunity besides the value score, can also have an estimation of what is the estimated effort required to introduce this opportunity. Is it a very large endeavor? Is it a large strategic one? Or could it be a fairly easy tactical fix? So you have that also here as an effort score. And what we can also look at is the total value versus effort. So it's an alternative view of the same opportunities, but what we can now look at and say, hey, look, help compare options. Remember the mobile phone comparison here is actually not so very cumbersome to introduce, but it delivers high impact for both the business and the customer. So this is the low-hanging fruit that we can maybe consider solving in the context of right now, the customer experience, life cycle, etc. view, right?
Martin, I want to thank you for this part of redefining journey management. The next episode, we're going to continue on this. So we're going to do two things next, is take these opportunities and look at how to link your solution roadmaps to it and how the whole process from insight to implementation runs. We're also going to talk about defining your goals and then looking at the experience through that lens. So you can not only look at it from the customer experience level, but also from the business goal perspective. So I would like to do those two things in the next episode we make. But this was phenomenal. We went from why they do, what is journey management, to touch base on the essentials of the journey framework. We didn't even get to journey mapping and how to use this as tools for change. But in the next episode, we will. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we continue our day and see each other in the next time?
Well, there is one thing. There is if we are not around, because we try to do our best, always be at your service, you can always go to daydo.com/guides. And here you have also extensive amount of information available at your disposal, depending on what type of topics you want to go more into. So for instance, here about journeys, what are customer journeys and so forth. We have it here as well, that you can really read up about it and learn more. So if we're not around, which we try to be, you can always go to daydo.com/guides and read a little bit more about the whole sort of building blocks around journey management and what Daydo has to offer.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this one. I can't wait to continue on episode 2, or part 2, I would have to say. So have a great day, Martin. Thanks for being here, and see you soon.
Thank you, Jochem. The same to you. Ciao.